Welcome. This is Debbie McAllister, and this is Light Up Your Worth. I am so excited to bring you this week's guest, and we're going to have a really interesting topic today about birth orders with Dr. Robert Hurst. He has been both a professor and a practicing orthodontist for over 50 years. He's educated at Indiana University and Harvard, and he's been studying his patients in childhood, adulthood, and beyond, observing how their birth order affects their life. He has written the book, Life's Fingerprint: How Birth Order Affects Your Path Throughout Life. The defining book describes birth order and the only one introducing double birth order. So I'm excited. Welcome.
Thank you, Debbie. Good to be here.
I was really excited to learn about birth order. What intrigued you to start studying and observing what you were seeing in your patients?
As an orthodontist, I need cooperation from my patients to be a success. If you've ever worked with teenagers, you know that cooperation from a teenager is sometimes difficult to achieve.
Yeah, that can be an understatement.
And I found that treating children from the same families, they were all different. And you would expect that a very cooperative child from one family, the next child would be cooperative also, but they weren't. They were very different. The children wanted to be different. They didn't want to be like their brothers and sisters. And so it dawned on me that there must be something going on here. And I needed to make a decision in the first few minutes of seeing a patient, what their cooperation would be for the next 2 years. So that's what drew me to understanding birth order. Would birth order give me that answer quickly? That's why I got interested in birth order. Now, the problem was birth order, sometimes when you read some things about birth order, they make it too simple. It does draw you in when you say the only child, the firstborn, the secondborn, the thirdborn, actually the fourthborn, and then it starts all over again. But a lot of the descriptions will draw you in, and it sounds like it'll work pretty good. The problem was, in my office, and I started using it, that only a third of the time did it work. I was about ready to throw the whole idea out and look somewhere else. But I said, I need to look a little further. So I looked at the family structure. Who were their brothers and sisters and how many years apart? I discovered double birth orders. Now you might say, a single birth order is tough enough. What's a double birth order?
Exactly. What's a double birth order?
When there's a distance of 4 or more years between a child and the next child, or groups of children. Sometimes the family has 2 or 3 children, then there's a 4-year gap, and then another 3 or 4 children. Whenever there's a 4-year gap, they get a double birth order. Now, the simplest is the one that's a single child and a 4-year gap, and then at least another 4 years. That child gets the double birth order of their number plus that of an only child, because they're kept at home with the parent without the other siblings around, and they're getting nurtured like an only child. So they get the characteristics of an only child, which takes their number and takes the characteristics of that number times 10. Because the only child is so self-assured and powerful, it adds that power. We say it magnifies, intensifies, and amplifies all the characteristics of that numbered birth order. When I did that, the whole idea worked on all the patients. The double birth, that's we said, the Rosetta Stone of understanding everyone. I'll give you another example. If 2 groups of children, first child is born and a year or 2 later, another child's born, a 1 and a 2. Then there's a 4-year gap. The third child born is really the oldest child in the second family. So they would be the third child, but they're the oldest in this next family because there's a 4-year gap. And those groups of children don't even interact because 4 years in kids' life, 8th grade to 12th grade, they don't interact at all. Then there's another child. That child would be the 4th child, but the second child in that second family. That's the other type of double birth order. They carry with them, that first one would carry with them some aspects of a 1 and some aspects of a 3. I'll give you an example. Princess Diana was a 3-1 double birth order. She had 2 older sisters and then a big gap. In her life, she was a very sensitive. She was involved with landmines, but she also wanted to be in charge. Number ones like to be in charge. They
Yes,
like to
we
tell
do.
other people what to do.
That's right.
And number twos, they don't want other people to tell them what to do. They appear to be stubborn. You've heard the stubborn number 2.
Mhm.
They're not stubborn. They just don't want to be told what to do. They're not telling you what to do. Just don't tell them what to do. Then you get the third child, which is the real sensitive child. This is the one that's going to save the world. They care about nature, people. It's not monetary for them. They see world's problems. They sense your pain. When they're born, the third child has to understand 17 different interrelationships within the family. The parents and the firstborn, the secondborn, all those relationships. There's 17 of them. That number 3 child, great in groups, intuitively feel it. The fourth child, the baby can be loud because no one listens and might hit you because they don't listen. And somebody's always taking care of the baby. So they tend to be a little bit irresponsible. And that's true. I'd see that in my office. The fourth child, they drop their appointment card on the way out the door. Someone else will take care of it. When you put the double birth orders together, you get interesting combinations. When you have a second family, you can have 2 children. Let me see if I can give you an example that they can share birth orders. Let's say that there's 3 children and then there's a big gap. So the fourth child is a 1 and a 4. He's the oldest one in that second group, but he's also a 1 and a 4. The next child becomes a 5 and a 2. The 5 is like a number 1 because it all starts over again after 4. These 2 children at times want to kill each other because they're the same birth order. I use the example, you can't have 2 pictures in a mirror at the same time. One can survive. But then at other times, he's a 4 and a 2. And they get along because they're not sharing the same space. When I tell that to families, they say, that makes perfect sense. Now I understand why my kids are trying to kill each other one minute and love each other the next. Do you have any siblings, Debbie?
I do. I am the oldest of 3.
Is there any gaps?
There's 18 months between me and my next sister. Then the next sister is 3 years from my second sister.
So you have to go at least 4 years in school to get that other double birth order. So you have a 1, a 2, and a 3.
Yes.
What we also see in birth order is sibling rivalry.
Mm.
And that usually occurs more between number 1 and number 2. You remember in the Bible the story of Cain and Abel, where they didn't get along because one thought God loved him best and didn't come out so well. But number 2 is always trying to take number 1's throne. And number 1 is always trying to keep the throne. And it's just a natural thing. So what I tell parents is that if you have 2 kids, especially if they're the same sex, don't let them play the same sports. If one's in football, let the other one be in basketball or baseball. But don't try to increase this sibling rivalry by putting them in the same sports. Every child wants to be special. Everybody wants to be who they are and different. And I see that all the time in the families I treat. And encourage the wonderful behavior that you want in that different sibling. I don't know if your sisters went into the same field that you did, or they all went to different places, and that's good.
We're all very different. Very different. We all took different paths in life, and my youngest is deceased. My youngest sister now is already deceased, but she was very much a risk taker. She was
Oh, yes. Number 3 is open to the world. They can sometimes be involved, drugs, alcohol,
Yeah,
because
she was
they're
actually an
open.
addict.
Yes, that.
Mhm.
And you got to be real careful with number threes because they're so open. And I always say with the number three, they're laughing on the outside, crying on the inside.
Mhm.
They don't want to let people realize how vulnerable they are. So that's your laughing side. And sometimes they can be tough. I'll give you an example of a tough number three. Rosie O'Donnell. She's a number three. She's got some older brothers.
Oh.
She is not the tough person that she presents herself to be. That's just the eggshell. She doesn't want people to get to know her because inside she's a softie, but not on the outside. She's not going to show you that.
Oh, that's really interesting. My sister was the comedian. We had pictures of her sticking needles out of her nose. It was crazy when she was really young. And then by the time she hit teenage years, she got into the drugs and alcohol.
Yeah, and it's very difficult to get them off of that once
Mhm.
they get.
Yeah. I'm the oldest. I never liked being told what to do ever. Rebellious in my own ways. My mom says I was trying to be bad, but I had to have my homework and my chores done.
You've spent decades building a successful career, checking all of the boxes, achieving every goal. But inside, you feel exhausted, burned out, and honestly, a little lost. You keep wondering, is this all there is? I'm Debbie McAllister, midlife fulfillment coach, and I created the Beyond Success Blueprint, a structured, proven process especially for high achieving midlife women who refuse to choose between their hard earned success and genuine fulfillment. Through my unique blend of strategic corporate experience and energetic healing, I guide you through a clear pathway to rediscover what truly lights you up without walking away from everything you've built. I'm here to help you create your next chapter beyond titles, expectations, and exhaustion. Because you deserve more than just looking successful on paper. You deserve to actually feel successful, fulfilled, and alive. You can connect with me at www.lightupyourworth.net. Let's create your next chapter together.
Yeah, usually the firstborn is the better one in school. They got to follow the
Yes,
rules.
I was.
So number two the athlete in your family? Was she a cheerleader or what did she do?
No, she was just quiet to herself in school. She has so many hobbies, makes quilts and had a large family. And when
She
I
has
was more
projects.
career driven, she was more family driven, married very young and
Going to be different from you, that's for
very
sure.
different from me.
What we find, I especially see it with two girls, that the second girl is she's in the shadow of the first girl when they're growing up, and she's usually very quiet and unassuming until they graduate from high school. Once they graduate from high school and she's out from under her older sister's thumb, so to speak, they
Mhm.
blossom into who they are. I know you're talking about self-worth. This is all about self-worth
Yeah.
because because you say what was going on with her for those first 12 years in school, and now look how she's blossomed. She's gone her own direction. She's doing her own things, and that's because she just felt the pressure of you, the older sister, who was taking all the slings and arrows. She just watched what's going on.
Mhm.
That's one type of relationship. The other type would be if she wanted to knock you off the throne. So she would challenge you in school, she'd challenge you in everything. And that happens. It especially happens more when you have boy girl or girl boy as the first two children. And when you have two boys, especially if number two boy grows bigger than number one boy, then people say, "Oh, you must be the older brother." And no, I'm not. And that really puts down the older brother. So
Yeah.
that goes
Yeah, that's
on.
interesting because my sister has 4 children,
Uh-huh.
and the first one is a boy, and then within 2 years is the second boy. And then there's a gap. There's I think it's 4-year gap
There you go.
between the third boy and then a year and a half, 2 years with the girl.
So there were 5 children.
There was 4. The 2 boys,
Okay,
and then
then
the
a gap.
boy, and then the girl. The girl is the youngest.
Okay, so the girl is a 4-2, and her older brother is a 2-1. There's an example. When they're both feeling their number 2s, they're going to kill each other. Okay, and then when they're relaxed, he's a 1 and she's a 4. See?
Yeah.
So they're different. But at times, they try to occupy the same space because they're a double birth order. Very different than the first 2 kids. The first 2 kids are 1 and 2. But these, they both have double birth orders. Number 3 is a 3-1, and number 4 is a 4-2.
Oh, yeah, that's really interesting because I have one son, so he's just an only child.
Okay, now, an only child, now you'd say, okay, an only child. Only children are all the same. Not true. The only child is all the other children in the birth orders, they learn their personalities by their interaction with their brothers and their sisters. That's more important than their parents, except for the only child. The only child's peer group are the parents because he has no other siblings.
Okay.
So he takes on the birth order of both mom and dad. And his main birth order will be whichever parent is the most dominant. If you're the more dominant of the parents, then he picks up your birth order to go along with his flavor. So he has a flavor like you're a number 1. If you're the dominant one, he's an only with a number 1 flavor, which is pretty close to what an only is because you started life as an only. You didn't become a 1 until your sister was born.
Yeah. Oh,
So-
that's interesting because his dad had twin older brothers, and there was 13 years difference. They're practically out of the house.
So his dad was a number 3 only, but at 13 years, the dad would have been more, he would have been 95% an only and only 5% a 3. You would have seen him more as an only, very strong personality with a little 3 flavor to him. That's interesting because you had a 3 in your family. That could have been the attraction a little bit because you had a 3 sister. And he was a 3, but
he was a bit wild.
Oh, yeah.
I would say, yeah.
Yeah. So your son is a combination of these birth orders. And that's why every only child has their own flavor. Only children are very interesting because every birth order has positive and negatives. And with an only child, they have one common thing that separates them: their want for a family. Some only children do not want anybody in the family. They don't want any brothers, sisters. And others say, I want a big family because my parents wanted more children, but they couldn't have any, so I feel obligated to bring them more grandchildren. A story that comes up is one of my clients, I was helping a tow truck company, and the secretary was down, I think she was in Miami with her boss, and they were waiting for a plane, and they thought they'd get something to eat. And he ordered a Dr. Pepper, and she'd never have a Dr. Pepper, so she said, could I have a sip of your Dr. Pepper? And he says, no, I'm an only child and I don't share. And she said, I couldn't believe he said that to me. But that's an only child for you.
Yeah, it can be. My son spent a lot of time with his cousins so that he could have more of these adopted siblings, right?
Yes, and as being an only child, only children are the ones in school where all the other kids look to them and they say, would you go talk to the teacher? Because only children aren't afraid of adults because that's their peer group. And they sometimes they become the president of the senior class and all that stuff. But if he interacts with his cousins, he might be the one that's in charge because he's the only child. He's the adult in a room.
Yeah, he tries, I think.
And you, as a mother, you could treat him almost as an equal. You talk to him like an adult. And I know with my patients, if they're only children, I have to treat them like I'm treating an adult because everything I say is going to go right back to the parents. And the parents believe everything that child says because, after all, he's their child and he's an only child. He's like a little adult. And
That's right. I think I did do that when he was growing up. He's an adult now himself. That's just really interesting.
yes,
So I want to
go ahead.
find out more about how the birth order impacts different parts of our lives.
Okay.
So we talk frequently about money consciousness on Light Up Your Worth. I'm curious to find out how does the birth order affect how we use money?
Oh, definitely. Money is, think of it as a commodity. For the number two, money gives them freedom to not have other people tell them what to do. Mark Zuckerberg is a number two with an older sister. He's got plenty of money. Nobody tells him what to do. Bill Gates, another number two with an older sister. Nobody tells him what to do. And Warren Buffett, he's another number two with an older sister. Nobody tells him what to do. They don't use money necessarily to buy things, but it buys them their freedom. Warren Buffett, he still lives in the house that he had 70 years ago. He drives an Oldsmobile or something. He's not looking for the money to impress anybody. The number one, on the other hand, money is power over other people. And so they can use that money to make people do what they want to do. And they may want to show others that they have the signs of wealth. So they might spend their money to impress people. A number three, on the other hand, money's not that important to them, but money will help them with their causes. They all have a cause. It might be saving animals. It might be saving the environment. And they would use their money in that form, not necessarily personally. The number four, that's the kid that just likes to have fun. So he's going to spend his money having fun, and he might spend money to have his friends come with him, and he'll pay their plane fare. So these different birth orders approach money in a different way. That should help your audience. And understanding your birth order just makes everything so
Yeah.
simple.
Which child would be the best then to handle your estate?
First of all, let me say there are no bad birth orders. Let's start that out. Okay. They're all good. They're just different. They have different things. A lot will depend on their situation at the time that you need them to handle your estate. An example would be if number one was going to handle your estate, they're telling all the other siblings, I'm running the show. You better follow my lead, and I can do this. Okay. If number two is running the estate, he might think, I've got to be fair to everybody. I've got to make sure that this money is distributed right and everybody's taken care of. And if number three gets involved, number three may look at it for, I want to make sure mom is doing the best she can. I really don't care that much about my siblings in this thing, but I care more about mom and how she's doing. And I want to spend this money on mom. And so if you want an empathetic person, that would be your number three. If you want a hands off number two, be fair about it. And number one's going to make the decisions, right or wrong. And nobody's going to be able to challenge that person.
Oh.
So you can see what might happen.
Oh yeah, that's so interesting because when my dad, he's passed now, but when he got sick, we lived in different states, and so it took me a day to get out to him when he was in the hospital. And When I arrived, the nurse said he slept that night because he knew I was going to take control. And he actually wanted that.
Sure.
He wanted me to take control of what was happening in the hospital and everything. So that's really interesting. Yeah.
What was his birth order?
There was 2, and he was a number 2.
A
He had
number
an
two.
he had an older brother, really close in age.
Huh? Do you think he dethroned his older brother?
Not at all.
Okay, so he stayed number two.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right. And you were number one, taking care of number two.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with
Ye
that.
Yep. In fact, I think he really liked that characteristic of me.
Sure, sure. Birth order is that unseen force that's influencing all our behaviors.
Mhm.
We don't realize it. It's like radio waves. I still don't understand where they come. They're in the air somewhere,
Yeah.
but where are they? What are they doing? The same thing about birth order. You're carrying this imprint with you that you got as a kid, and you carry it through your entire life, and it influences all your decisions, but you don't really know what it's doing until you understand it. And then once you understand it, you know why you do what you do.
Mhm.
It makes life so much easier.
Self-awareness is so powerful with our own growth. Can understanding birth order impact your career or being a business owner?
Yes, most CEOs in the country are firstborns. Now, I did name you three that were secondborns,
Mhm.
but you have to understand that in these companies, there's a birth order flavor to a company, and it's influenced by the CEO. Like in Bill Gates' case and with Apple, as a number two, he wanted people not to be told what to do. So he made all of them not employees, but self directed within the company. Of course, he wasn't paying W 2s on them and things, so they were all independent contractors. But that's why he felt I'm an independent contractor. I think everybody should be that way. So that was the flavor in the company. So the CEO gives the flavor to the company, but most of them are number ones and they're telling people what to do. That's the job of number one. But you can have number twos and number threes and number fours. Actually, a CEO of a number four was Southwest Airlines. Now, Southwest Airlines, when it started, their president was a number four, and a number four was he was the baby in the family. And if you think about it, when they started, there were never any assigned seats. It was first come, first serve,
Mhm.
just like it was around their dinner table. First come, first serve.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the baby. And he had a whole different attitude. And in Southwest Airlines, I don't know quite how it is today. When he started it, it was so different than any other airline. It was have fun. The stewardesses would make jokes, and it was very different. But that was the atmosphere that he brought to the company.
Yeah.
So the
Yes, it
CEOs,
was.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And that's why I've been looking at this for years and years. And all of a sudden, everything makes sense. You can see why people are the way they are. And there's a perfect example when we talk about businesses and they say, yeah, why was that company different? That's why.
That makes sense too when you start seeing a lot of companies that are around now that are very environmentally conscious or want to make sure that there's a lot of inclusion. It would be interesting to go and see what birth order those companies would be.
Sure. But today there's so many other influences. Sometimes if the CEO is a number one and he wants to keep his job, and there's influences that are saying, let's do this, let's do that, and the board of directors, then all of a sudden he might be doing something that he doesn't believe in, but he wants to hold his job.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Now, how does the birth order impact finding romantic partners? Or does it impact our romantic life? I think instantly of astrology, they say different signs are more compatible with others. And is there anything with birth order with that romantic partner?
Absolutely.
Hey.
Absolutely. I was waiting for that question because that usually comes up. There are two types of love at first sight.
Mm.
And the first type of love at first sight is very easy. It's when you meet someone that has your same birth order. If you're a 1 and you meet someone with a 1, why you get along life the same way? You can always almost finish each other's sentences. You're on the same page. You're there. It's so compatible. Problem is, we get back to that mirror. There can only be one image in the mirror at a time. So you have to divide up the chores. Someone's in charge of international relationships and the other one's in charge of domestic relationships. Whatever it is, every birth order combination can work. They can all work. Some take more work than others. But that's one type of love at first sight that works pretty good. But there's another type of love at first sight that I've never seen a divorce from. I've talked to thousands and thousands of people, and I always ask this question. I give them the parameters, and I ask for a show of hands. It's if you match your childhood birth order sibling within your family, you'll be a marriage forever. Now, let me give you an example. The easiest would be we have an older girl like yourself, and you have a younger brother. And then in another family, you have an older brother and a younger sister. If you would marry a man that had a number 1 older sister, then you would have matched a sibling in your family with your same birth order. Because he would have an older sister and he's the younger brother. So he understands you as the older sister. You would understand him as the younger brother. Okay, so it works. Now, you're not on the same page, but you understand each other and you are different. So you take different roles within the relationship. But it's a very comfortable relationship because he knows all about you. You know all about him, and it works. So if you can match, for instance, let's say that your younger sibling, the third, was a boy. You could have married a boy that's a number 3 that had a number 1 older sister. And I think that's what you did. It was close.
My son's dad he had the older brothers that were 13 years older than him. We didn't make
Right.
it though.
No, but he was a double birth order. See
Yeah,
that?
he was a double birth order. Now my
Right.
he's the third. He has an older brother and a sister, and then there's a over 4-year gap as well. And he's the third, and then he has a younger brother as well. Mom had 2 different
But
marriages, right?
did all the kids live together?
Not really. No, the younger
So the
2
birth
did.
order, when you get, we'll get into that question too about divorces and blended families. But in that family, he grew up with, what siblings did he grow up with?
I think maybe when he was really young, maybe for a few years, the older brother and sister were in the house, but
Okay, then they disappeared.
and then they were adults.
Yeah, it's who you grew up with during those first 16 years. During his first 16 years, was he by himself as a number 3?
He had his younger brother as well.
Okay, just a couple years younger?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so then he took on the birth order of a 3-1, and the younger brother would be a 4-2. He's a 1 like you, and he's a 3 like your baby sister was. Okay, 3 seem to pop up in your life. Do you notice that?
We're just gonna say that.
Yes,
Wow, like they're exactly the same with that age. I didn't even put that together.
That's the reason. That's the reason. That's where it's coming from. Like I say, this birth order stuff, once you understand double birth order, it's the Rosetta Stone for everything. It all starts to make sense. And you say, why am I doing this? It's there, but you can't quite put your finger on it. Interesting.
Wow. I'm just like, my brain is like, oh my gosh. Because there seems to be nothing, they don't seem to be anything like each other. But that definitely is.
That's right.
They're both double birth orders.
Yes, but this one is a 1-3. The other one was much, much stronger because it was at only 95% only and then 5% of 3. This one might be 50-50, but what you have to be careful is that they switch from the two birth orders. They go from the 1 to the 3. When both of you are 1s, you're on the same page. It seems to be pretty good. But then when he becomes a 3, you're saying, why are you doing that? That doesn't make any sense. But that's because he's number 3. And if you understand that, he'll get over it and he'll become a 1 again. So it'll be okay.
Yeah, it's definitely a much more harmonious relationship for sure.
Oh, yeah. 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 Now, I was going to get into, we talked about it, the blended families, the divorces, and when you bring them back together. When that happens, it's the Brady Bunch. If anybody gets elevated in birth order, they do great in the family. If they keep their birth order, they do great in the family. But if they get demoted, they don't do well at all. So let's say you take 2 kids from one family, 2 kids from the other family, and the 2 kids from one family are much older than the other 2. When you bring them together, the younger kids become a 3 and a 4. They don't like it. They don't do well. I'll give you an example. In a small community, you treat a lot of patients and the parents know each other and whatever, and some get divorced. And I had 2 families and the kids, they knew each other. And one she was an only child and she really wanted a dad. And her mom ended up marrying someone else in the practice that I was treating. And he had 2 daughters. When they got married, she became the youngest in that family, and she had to share a bedroom. In her own house, she was an only child. She had her own bedroom. Now she got a dad, and she got 2 older sisters. At first, she liked it. But then all of a sudden, she realized she wasn't an only child anymore. She was a number 3. And she didn't like it. She didn't have her own room. She had to share things. These girls were telling her what to do. She didn't like it at all. And within 6 months, they were back divorced, and she was back in her own room in her own house. By the way, she didn't let her mother sell her house. She had a feeling, I think. And as a patient, she was a great patient as an only child. When her mom remarried, she became sullen. She became argumentative. She had all kinds of problems, breaking her braces. And then after they got separated, she came back to be her same only child self again, wonderful little girl. So these things happen all too frequently.
Oh, what should somebody look for if you're a number 1 or if you're number 2, a number 3, or a 4?
Oh,
Ones
well,
are best matched with ones?
oh, yeah, that's interesting. First of all, your best match is to match up somebody that was in your family, hopefully with the opposite gender, if that's what you're going to marry someone the opposite gender, or if it's the same gender, but that position in the family so you understand it. But if you're just doing birth orders, you know that number 1s want to tell people what to do. Unless you were born with a number 1 above you and you understand it, number 2s aren't going to get along well with you because they don't want to be told what to do. But if they're used to it, well, they can work with it. But like a number 2 and a number 4 work pretty well together because number 2 doesn't want to be told what to do, and number 4 doesn't care. They're going to ignore it. Okay, so 2s and 4s get along pretty well. And that's why if you have a double birth order that you're a 2 and a 4, you get along pretty well with yourself. But if you're a double birth order and you're a 1 and a 3, you have some problems because 1 and 3s don't see the world the same way. So you vacillate between how you operate within yourself. The worst thing could be a double birth order that has, let's say, there are 4 and an only. That's as far apart as you could go. The only says, I'm an adult. I'm going to do this. I know what I'm doing. And number 4 says, but I'm the baby. I don't know what I'm doing. I need help here. And the other side says, no, you don't need help. Number 4 says, yes, I do. I need help. I can't do this. And so they're in conflict with themselves constantly. So understanding your birth order will increase your self-worth because you know who you are and you can work with it. That's the key. You're not changing. You're just understanding who you are.
Hmm.
And it's a wonderful revelation. I tell you, when I started practicing orthodontics, I didn't know what to expect from my patients. I was straightening teeth. Then I realized I was really working with their personalities and working with them. Teeth were secondary. And then once I understood birth order, I understood everybody. I treated them all differently based on their birth order. And that's what parents should do with their kids. They should treat them all differently because they are different and they don't want to be the same anyway. And that will
Right.
increase their
Yeah.
self-worth.
And I think our listeners, m- I think a large percentage of them have children, probably older children, right? Not young. So I think that's some really useful advice, especially if you're managing adult children.
Oh, absolutely. It doesn't change it. Interesting when you say that, because that brings up Thanksgiving and
Mm.
Christmas. Thanksgiving is when the whole family gets together. And guess what? If you were number 4, you're going to still be sitting at the little kids' table, even though you're an investment banker in New York City, because everybody goes back to the same place they were when they were kids together.
Mhm.
It doesn't change. They're still who they are.
That's really funny. Can this help us with understanding our ancestors? I know I do a lot of stuff with like generational trauma. And so I'm curious about how this can impact our ancestors or understanding them.
Yes. And um, I wrote a book about my grandmother who I never knew, and I couldn't have written the book unless I understood birth order. Because once I understood birth order, I understood who she was and how she responded to what happened to her in her life, even though she didn't understand birth order for sure. But and so understanding birth order, if you know your parents or grandparents or great grandparents or whatever, birth order, you can really find out who they are. And I've done a number of blogs on historical figures. One in particular was John Wilkes Booth, who killed President Lincoln. He had a double birth order. He was a 1-3 double birth order. And the 1 said, I'm in charge. And the 3, he was an actor. And in those days, these actors, they were the money makers because all they had was theater. There was no radio, there was no TV. So he was very wealthy. And so his number 3 side was he was an actor. The number 1 side said he believed in the Southern cause. And the number 3 side also said, you have to save the world. That's your job. You have to save the world. So he thought saving the world was saving the Confederacy and killing Lincoln.
Oh,
It made sense. Most of our interesting figures in the world have double birth orders because they have 2 sides of their personalities
oh,
and they come out in different ways.
uh-huh.
John Wilkes Booth was one, and that 3 side said, save the world. And he thought he was doing the right thing, you know, and it's very interesting.
That
So
is very interesting.
understanding your ancestors' birth order can do it for you.
Mm.
You might hear stories about, oh, great grandfather was such and such, and all of a sudden, when you get the birth order, you say, that's why he was the way he was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's a good one for that.
Oh yeah. I'll have to look at that with the women. The research I'm doing on the women in my family on both sides, my father and my mother's side,
Yes.
and really see how that plays out. Oh, I never really thought about that. That's fascinating.
Yeah, remember, it's this great unseen force that's going on and it's been going on forever.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Is there any last things you'd like for us to say or share about the birth order?
I can say that you need to understand it to understand who you are. That's the most powerful part of birth order. And then once you understand who you are and how you react to things and to other people with other birth orders, it's very easy to find someone's birth order. All you have to do is say, do you have any brothers or sisters? And then the second question is, Were there any spaces of 4 or more years between anybody? And you got your answer.
Oh.
That's the simple part. And then understanding these characteristics, then you know who you're dealing with, and it makes your life so simple and predictable.
Yeah.
Thing.
That's some really good guidance on figuring that out with people we work with, our partners, or our own children, whether
Yes.
they're young or adults. One of the questions I like to ask all my guests is that I really believe in the power of music and how it can uplift us, it can change our moods. And I would like to find out, what is your go to song for uplifting yourself? And
This would be good because it fits in with what we were talking about. I think Frank Sinatra sang it. You must have been a beautiful baby.
oh,
Because, baby, look at you now. Because that's what life is all about.
yeah.
You like that one?
Oh, I love him. Yeah. What birth order was Frank Sinatra?
I think Frank Sinatra was an only child.
Now that would make sense, right?
And you remember what they called him? Chairman of the board.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. In fact,
Mhm.
I recently watched something on a movie within the last couple of months on him in when he lived out in the desert,
Las
Palm
Vegas.
Springs, and that whole lifestyle and how authoritative would be the word,
Yeah.
bossy, yeah, that he was for
Oh, yeah.
everything to be just so. He was
Right.
definitely in control, right? He did it
Oh,
his
yeah.
way.
Well, that was a song he sang too, right?
Yeah, he sang
I
it,
did it my way, right?
right?
You
I
know,
love that song, by the
even the
way.
music he picked fit his birth order.
Right?
It happens.
Oh my gosh, that's great. I'm curious to understand, knowing like how much we value ourselves. If you had to go back and tell your younger self something about your own worth, what would you tell yourself?
I happen to have been lucky. I had a mother that was a kindergarten teacher, and she felt that every glass was half full. So she gave her children a lot of self assurance and whatever. But if I had to go back, I think if I understood birth order like I do now, I would understand why I did the things I did and why I felt the way I did. If I understood who I was at that time, knowing I was going to be different than other siblings
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't going to be the same. And that would have given me even more self worth. Knowing who you are, it would be important.
I really like that. I've really enjoyed learning about the impact of understanding birth order on ourselves, understanding how it impacts all these different areas of our lives. Thank you, Dr. Hurst, for being here with me. If listeners want to reach out to you to learn more about your book or to purchase your book or just to get in contact with you, what's the best way to reach you?
The best way to reach me is through our websites. One is lifesfingerprint.com, and the other is mybirthorder.com. How easy is that?
Yeah.
And not only do we have the book, now there's two versions. One's a hardcover in color, and it has a section in the back on questions that I was asked at various lectures and answers to those questions. The softcover book doesn't have that. And actually, that's they probably can buy on Amazon. The hardcover book you can buy through the website, but we also have it on as a USB. I think I have one here I can show you. And this little card and the USB pops out, and you can plug that in your computer if you don't want the book. But I recommend the book as a coffee table book especially for Thanksgiving dinner for Christmas, so that everybody in the family can look up their birth order. Hopefully you won't kill each other.
Yeah, it would be a lively discussion, wouldn't it be? For the
I've also said that
holidays when everybody comes back and
what I've said, they can play the birth order game, and when they find their birth order, you take a little sticky thing and you stick it on them, number one, number two, and all during the meal, you'll see who you're talking to.
that would be cute.
Right.
Get some Post-its in the book and answer the questions. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I've learned so much, and it just has made some things clearer to me in my own awareness. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a wonderful interview. I loved your questions.